Imagine living in a society where thousands of innocent girls were failed, abused on a horrific scale, while those in power argue over how to respond. Now picture the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, standing in Parliament, telling the nation that we can't investigate these heinous crimes and protect our children at the same time. Shocking, isn't it? But that's exactly what happened during this week's Prime Minister's questions. Keir Starmer's words didn't just spark outrage, they raised disturbing questions about the very fabric of our leadership and society. So let's break this down and ask, is this the response the victims and our nation deserve? In a heated exchange with Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, Starmer opposed the idea of a national inquiry into the rape of thousands of girls, some of the most horrific crimes in modern British history. His argument? That instead of dwelling on inquiries, we should focus on protecting children now. But here's the problem. You can't protect children retrospectively. Those girls, now adults, are living with the scars of abuse inflicted on an industrial scale. As David Cameron himself once described it, the scale of these crimes was staggering. Starmer did make one fair point. National inquiries can be grueling for victims. Reliving trauma is no small thing. But here's the critical question. If we don't investigate, how do we learn? How do we ensure that authorities, those who turned a blind eye, are held accountable? How do we make sure such atrocities never happen again? Without accountability, without exposing the failures of police and local authorities, justice is incomplete. And for victims, that means the system fails them twice. First when the crimes happened, and again when those in power refuse to pursue the truth. Inquiries are far from perfect. They're slow, frustrating, and often feel like too little, too late. But they matter. They give victims a voice. They force institutions to confront their failures. And if done right, they create a roadmap to protect future generations. By resisting an inquiry, Starmer inadvertently admits something far more troubling: that we live in a society incapable of addressing past evils while protecting today's children. And that's where the bigger issue lies. If a government, or an opposition leader, claims we can't do both, what does that say about the state of our nation's leadership? About the priorities of those in power? A state that fails to protect its children or deliver justice for those wronged doesn't just fail, it ceases to belong to the civilized world. Here's the real question, Prime Minister. Is this the legacy you want for Britain? A nation that turns away from justice? A nation that fails its most vulnerable? For voters watching, ask yourselves, is this leadership? Or is it complacency, disguised as practicality? The victims, their families, and every single one of us deserve better. Britain deserves better. The fight for justice isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. But it's necessary. For those who suffered, and for those who come after. Because a nation that doesn't protect its children isn't a nation at all.